Trainers, unite! Welcome to Trainers Unite, a Pokemon Unite podcast. I'll be your host, Josh, also known as JSide, joined by my co-host, Andrew, aka Attilio the Hun. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing yourself, JSide?
Good. I mean, we just played a couple of games of Pokemon Unite to get warmed up so we can talk about it, so I'm pretty hype.
Yeah, me too. Super fun.
So, for those of you listening, this podcast is for any and all players of Pokemon Unite that are interested in a little discussion about the state of the game and any relevant updates, as well as our opinions and experiences with the game ourselves. Now, today's main topic is about the hidden info and bugs in the game. We want to arm you with info so that you can be aware and prepared for when these things happen. Some of them can effectively determine whether you win or lose a game. Right, so today's podcast will be broken down into 3 sections. 1 is news, 2 is bugs, and 3 is game-changing hidden info. Right? So before we get started, Andrew, how was your Pokemon Unite been going this week?
Well, this week has been kind of a slow week for Pokemon Unite for me. I've been also doing some other stuff with my streaming, like my Pokemon randomizer that we just put out my first YouTube video for. But
woo!
But I actually fell down to veteran.
Oh.
But then I was playing the game with Kira and JSide, and we lost a couple games, and I fell down to veteran. But then I went ahead and did some solo queue by myself later, and quickly got back up. And now I'm class 2, so hoping by the end of this week I'll be masters. That is actually my goal for this week, is to be master rank.
Nice. Who did you use to get back up to ultra from veteran?
Oh, so typically I've been using Machamp and apparently been playing it wrong. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I actually used a lot of Absol and Lucario to get back up. I've been forcing a lot of mid plays because sometimes you just have to.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's really hard to rely on teammates. As we know, we've talked about how sometimes the closer you get to Masters, the Master teammates you get are not really fulfilling their duties as teammates. So, yeah, so that's great. I mean, I'm glad you've at least gone back up. So hopefully you get to Masters, and good luck with that goal.
Hoping.
Yeah, so, all right, you ready to spill some juicy tea?
Oh, I'm ready, and boy, do we've got some of it.
All right, let's get started with the news. First, I want to talk about the Pokemon Presents live stream. And I'm sure many of you listening have seen the Pokemon Presents live stream that premiered last week. And I'd love to talk about how freaking hype I am for Pokemon Legends. But in today's news, we're going to focus on the information specifically revealed about Pokemon Unite. So the first big news was the mobile release date. The mobile version of the game's release date is September 22nd. This is confirmed. And as far as we know, the game will definitely be cross-play with the Nintendo Switch, which means you can party up and play with your friends on mobile, even if you're the only one with a Switch, and vice versa. Right? So we can have more friends, more chances of having a full party, which we always recommend here at Trainers Unite. And there's no mention of cross-save, right? So whether you'll be able to sign in with your Switch account on the mobile and vice versa, but assumably, by linking your Nintendo account, you should be able to use the same account from your Switch onto your phone for playing on the go. So let's hope for that. We don't know for sure yet, but we're hoping for it. So, also, if the mobile version of Pokemon Unite reaches over 2,500,000 registrations, Pikachu's Unite license will be given to mobile players for free. And if they hit 5 million registrations, Pikachu's special festival style of a Japanese-inspired holoware will also be given for free to mobile players. You can pre-register right now on the Google Play and App Store until the game releases on September 22nd. Now, if the goals are reached, which I have a feeling there will be, you can log into the mobile version to claim this until October 31st. If you already own Pikachu's Unite license, then you'll be gifted Eos coins instead, presumably 6,000, which is how much Pikachu's Unite license normally costs. Now, they also mentioned that if you haven't already, you can sign into the Nintendo Switch version of Unite before August 31st so that you can get Zero Aura's Unite license for free. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you already have it because you've been playing. And if you haven't, what are you doing? Go log in and get those free bonuses. And if your friends haven't tried playing yet, get them to sign in too. If you happen to miss Zero Aura this time around, though, there will be special missions implemented later for you to obtain the Unite license. And that's not all they announced at the Pokemon Presents live stream. They also announced Mamoswine and Sylveon, two new Pokemon. No release date on these two, none on Blastoise yet either, but it's great to be excited about several new playable Pokemon coming to the game. What did you think of these Pokemon Unite announcements, Andrew?
So I've got a couple things to say about these Pokemon. First of all, Sylveon was pretty highly expected. One, it's one of the most popular evolutions, and people are also saying, like, why is Eevee not in the game yet? So I assume Eevee is probably going to be also a pre-evolution as well, because Eevee is pretty much the secondary mascot now for Pokemon. I mean, he's even got, like, part of the Pikachu parade. It's now got Eevee in it for the most part over in Japan, actually in Yokohama. And Sylveon was also kind of leaked. So it was kind of already known that Sylveon was going to eventually come, or some sort of evolution. People were either saying either Sylveon or a kind of choose-your-own-path Umbreon-Espeon hybrid, which I think would have been cool. But yeah, Sylveon is great too. And secondly, the one that came out of nowhere is Mamoswine. I was just like, Mamoswine? Why? Then I came to learn, because I'm now getting into competitive Pokemon like VGC a little bit more. Mamoswine's a huge popular Pokemon in VGC, or in competitive Pokemon. Mamoswine is pretty popular in the competitive scene. So the fact that he's in the game is, I guess, to them would be no brainer. But we'll definitely probably be seeing a Swinub and then a Piloswine into Mamoswine evolution tree, and that's a rock ice type. So that'll be, or a ground ice, excuse me. I think it's ground ice. And I think that'll be a very interesting combination to have, because right now we just have Ninetales for ice and Crustle for ground rock kind of Pokemon, I believe. If well, you got Garchomp with Dig and stuff, I suppose, but for the most part, this will be a kind of unique new typing to the game. I mean, it'll be, of course, a unique one, but and as for Blastoise, he was in the tutorial, and he's also in the beta for mobile. Where is he? Where is Blastoise? He is one of the original starters in Pokemon. Where's Blastoise? He plays. Like, we've controlled him before. He's got a HoloWare that's been shown off. It's just like, why is he not out yet? Is he going to come out before these two Pokemon? Which, honestly, he might come out before Mamoswine and Sylveon get dropped, because kind of maybe shadow dropped like Gardevoir was, because Gardevoir kind of like, hey, she comes out tomorrow, by the way, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, we need to solve this mystery, right? You know who we need, right?
Who do we need?
Detective Pikachu.
We do. Should have seen that one coming. I'm groaning right now super hard. All right, where's Ryan Reynolds? But anyways, yeah, that's what I think about the announcements for Pokemon Unite. Well, I also, besides those Pokemon, I'm super excited for the festival costumes that are coming out.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, the Pikachu one looks great. The Ninetales one, oh, I am buying that Ninetales one day one, and I might main Ninetales after that. But it's I love these Japanese festival theme stuff, especially because it's kind of in August. It's kind of coming to an end pretty soon, and I'm assuming with COVID going around, we weren't able to get the full extent of Japanese summer festivals and stuff like that. I know back when I lived in Sapporo, I went to one myself and I loved it, and I just love the aesthetic.
All right, yeah. So very excited for those costumes. Also, me living in Japan still, I think I'm probably gonna start seeing it on subways and stuff everywhere. But one thing I'm actually really excited for is the mobile version, and the fact that we will be able to control it with the touchscreen instead of the controller. Like I know you got to play the beta a little bit, but I'm really excited to try it on my iPad the same way I used to play Wild Rift, and hoping that uh, the controls are a little bit more accurate when it comes to some
Yeah.
of these moves. So that might actually be a huge game changer, I think, in terms of high level play, because being able to be accurate and playing against Switch players, you might be able to pull off some really crazy plays that might be difficult and or impossible on the
Mm.
Nintendo Switch version. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Of course.
So, oh yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I think it ultimately will come down to preference, but I do think mobile might have a slight edge, and it might end up being pro play. Once esports gets started for Unite, we might see mostly iPhone players with the random one Switch player, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Anyway, guys, what Pokemon do you want to see next? As always, comment below. Really excited. There's so many Pokemon to choose from, and we're gonna be waiting at every event to see who's gonna be announced next. So that brings our news section to a close, and we're gonna move on to the next section, talking about bugs in Pokemon Unite. Right. Now, when we talk about bugs in Pokemon Unite, we're not talking about the lack of bug Pokemon, but the abundance of unintentional things that happen mostly because of some game programming or coding errors. Now, bugs can happen in any video game, no matter how polished. Many developers have a whole team dedicated to finding and fixing these bugs, but the faster that the community brings them up, in most cases, the developers who actually source information from their community will be quicker to fix these bugs. Last week, we talked about one well-known bug where sometimes, even if you finish the entire scoring animation, if you only have 1 to 2 seconds left on the clock, even after you score, your score might not count. In many cases, being the reason that you lost the game by maybe 20 or so points. Now, there are a ton of clips online that show where there is still over a second left, but the scoring doesn't count, and the game is lost by those 20 points, or by a differential that would have definitely changed the outcome if the score went through. Andrew and I both shared how we both experienced this in game last week, but I personally have been experiencing less and less of this. Like, I've been able to score within those last couple seconds, and then it counts. So I don't feel it as much. It seems a lot better for me. Has it been any better for you, Andrew? Do you notice anything about it?
I've definitely seen it. I actually haven't experienced it at all. But
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it still happens. But I haven't really had any chances to score, and that's mostly because people are just guarding the whole time. But yeah, well, but yeah, I haven't really had it that bad with that particular bug, but I'm sure we'll get into ones that I have.
All right. So yeah, so speaking of other bugs, right? There's another bug involving the healing berries. And I've only seen it with 2 people so far. I'm not sure if it could affect 3 people or 4 people simultaneously, but the bug is if you, an enemy, or an ally walk over a berry at the exact same time, you'll both get healed. It seems unintentional because it really feels like only one person should get the heal, though it healing both of you and an ally can come in handy during a fight. Healing you and an enemy is not, especially if the enemy is a Snorlax who gets extra health from berries. Just something to be aware of. Another major bug to be aware of. Huge one. In your held items, if you are using Scope Lens and Muscle Band, Scope Lens needs to be on the left of the Muscle Band. Otherwise, Scope Lens passive won't work. This crazy bug is definitely unintentional and makes me question all held item placements. But as far as the testing has been done, it seems this is the only issue involving held item placement. Now make sure if you are using these 2 items, which you usually are because they go hand in hand with each other, try to put Scope Lens in slot 1, the leftmost slot, and make sure that you're able to use it passive. What do you think about this bug, Andrew?
Right, so many of you guys know, if you've been keeping up with us and if you've been watching my streams as well, a lot of my grinding to get to the point I have 122 games on this Pokemon, and a 56% win rate is Machamp. And the item, the set that I take on Machamp, because I like the way it feels. I like being able to contribute a lot to the game and dealing damage, because he's not a tank, but he can take some damage, especially with the Focus Band. I take Muscle Band, Scope Lens, and Focus Band. Now, some games I felt, or most of my games, sometimes I feel like, man, I feel like I should be doing more damage because 2 of these items are level 30, man, being Muscle Band and Scopelins, the culprits at hand. And I have been doing exactly what this bug says. I haven't been putting it in the right place. I just played a game because I just learned about this bug today, and I put the items in the correct spot today with Josh here, and I carried that game so hard.
Yeah.
I was doing really well that game. I got MVP and everything. I'm just like, I could feel the difference. I was getting clears done faster. I was having more effective ganks. I was getting by things better. I was just like, this is a problem. And I never knew about it. I just thought like, well, maybe these items aren't as good as I thought. And I thought about actually changing up my item set. But it's like, but they gotta be the best set, right? Or like one of the best item like combinations. At least what I like with Machamp. And it's crazy. Like, and then when I tried it, I'm just like, well, there's the culprit because I moved Scopelins, to the far left, and boom, it works now.
Yeah, it's like of course, the higher you climb, the more you're gonna feel it, right? Because like, every stat counts the higher you get in ranked, and that's a huge oversight on their part as far as bugs goes. Like, I really hope they fix this soon. I haven't heard of them fixing it. I saw that this was posted about like over a week ago, but I haven't seen any mention of them fixing it. So in the meantime, definitely just keep your scope lens on the leftmost, and then you don't have to try as hard to get out the damage that you should be having with these items, especially if you level them up all the way, like in Andrew's case. So that's a huge bug. Please be aware of that. Now, the last bug that I want to mention today has to do with Unite move cooldowns. Now, this could be considered game breaking because it can be the difference between winning or losing a fight and ultimately the game. Sometimes when you're casting your Unite move, you can be interrupted by the enemy's hindrance moves, right? So CC. When this sort of thing happens in another MOBA, usually your ultimate, your big cooldown move, if it gets interrupted, it feels really bad that you lose the entire cooldown because of that, because sometimes these moves take like multiple, like 2-3 minutes to come back. So as a solution, many games implement that you only lose part of the cooldown if your ultimate gets cancelled. The Pokemon Unite seems to also want to do this because sometimes when your Unite move gets interrupted, the meter goes down like 10% to 90% from 100. And then your Unite move will come back in a couple seconds. But more often than not, in my experience and from the voices of the community, the Unite move, when interrupted, goes straight to 0, right? So if it goes to 0%, you're guaranteed to not be able to use that Unite move anytime soon, especially not in the current fight that you probably got it interrupted in. Now, if this supposed bug were to be fixed, it could change the outcome of a lot of fights for people who specifically saved their Unite move for the important fights. Especially because Pokemon Unite takes place in 10-minute games, and some Unite moves take a minute or 2 minutes to come back, especially if you aren't able to farm as much, then this can be a huge difference. Like, has this happened to you, Andrew? Probably has, but has it?
All right. This has happened to me many times where I press it once, I see my move activated, but then I instantly die or I get interrupted, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's just gone. And I'm just like, cool. It's just gone now.
Feels bad, man.
It feels so bad to save, like, because you're farming to get enough for your night move for those big team fights. And it just hurts so bad. And they need to do what League of Legends does or other MOBAs do, where if you get interrupted or you die during an ult, instead of you getting penalized completely, they should do like a small one, like maybe 90%. I would even be okay with 80%, you know?
Yeah, partial cooldown, right?
Yeah, partial cooldown. Heck, I would even be good with 50. I'd be good with something. Like, it's just at 0, it hurts so bad.
Yeah, you really lose a lot when you lose your Unite move, especially if you're saving it, right? So, yeah, I mean, for now, the only thing that we can suggest is try to be in the best position to make sure that you can use your Unite move. Watch out for the Pokemon that have a lot of hindrances, like Alolan Ninetales, Snorlax, Slowbro, or just try to use your Unite move slightly earlier than you normally would, just to make sure you get it off before dying, or before it goes to 0% cooldown from being interrupted.
Mm.
All right, so those are the main bugs I wanted to mention today. If you're aware of these, you have a better chance of fighting them or avoiding them in game. So, please make sure that you guys are not victims to these bugs. They're all avoidable in some way or another. So, good luck. Now, let's move on to talking about the information the game doesn't tell you that is intentional. Hidden information in the game. Now, Pokemon Unite is still early on in its lifespan, having just been released a few weeks ago and being released on mobile next month. Now, maybe because Pokemon is typically marketed for kids and they want to make the game simple, but as a result, the game is oversimplified to the point where there is so much or even too much information, or hidden information, sorry. In my opinion, this hidden information, typically available in other games in the same genre, is crucial to those who want to play the game competitively. How can I know why my opponent is doing more damage than me? How much stronger is a level 15 Gengar than a level 15 Absol? There's no information about the base stats of any Pokemon. If I equip a held item that gives my Pokemon 7% attack, how am I supposed to know how much that is? It's harder when the game doesn't tell you what's happening. Many dedicated players have taken the time to go into practice mode and calculate a lot of this information to help the player base out with deciding which items to use and which stats to focus on certain Pokemon. Being able to choose items that fit your playstyle is a big part of MOBA games, and Pokemon Unite hides so much info that it's hard to make any real decisions in the game at any point. Now, before we move on, I just want to mention that the game does give you sort of base stats overview. When you're at the Pokemon selection screen, you'll see a bunch of stars that go next to attacking, scoring, defending, or these kind of basic stats, but they don't give you any numbers, so it's hard to compare exactly how much. Even if two Pokemon are 3 stars in the same category, does that mean they're exactly the same, or does it mean that they're just close and about the same level, right? And what is that relative to? What are the stars? What is 5 stars? What is 1 star? We have no idea. So a lot of the held items in the game have hidden stats that we don't talk about. Like, held items are the only way that you can add stats or change stats on your Pokemon that you're playing. So to talk about these hidden stats that held items have, Andrew is going to go over a Reddit post. And so take it away, Andrew.
All right, so yeah, we're going to be talking about some held item hidden stats, which honestly, like we've mentioned, this is your building blocks of what makes your Pokemon a certain kind of Pokemon. You kind of make a Pokemon your own with these held items, so not knowing what certain stuff do can sometimes be frustrating, especially when it negatively affects you in game. But speaking of dedicated players, like Josh has mentioned, there is a Reddit post by Contonsis, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, titled Analysis on Held Items Plus Hidden Stats, with lots of information that the game doesn't tell you. I want to share some of these really important to know stats. First of all, scoring items. Max 6 stats, 1 stack per dunk. Shell Bell. It has a 10-second cooldown. Like, how was I supposed to know that? Like, I have Shell Bell and, its effects, but when does those effects restart? Like, how am I supposed to know that? EXP Share, the big support item. There is a passive level cap, where you must defeat a wild Pokemon or dunk for Pokemon that evolve to level during the evolve breakpoints. Initial testing is that a normal distribution of experience on wild Pokemon is 70% last hitter, 30% to participants. With experience share, it is 100% last hitter, 30% to participants. More than one EXP share seems to disable this and reverse distribution back to 70%, 30%. And I've seen this happen before. We've been playing games with one of our friends that he normally goes support, and he just stops leveling up. He's like, why am I still like level 3 when I should be this level? So we've personally seen the effects of it, and he never knew about this. And I don't think he still does. We should probably tell him this, actually.
Yeah.
that you actually, and I reading this, I'm just like, wow, that is why, because he would be asking when we're playing, why is it not working? And then he kills a Pokemon, and he's just like, oh, I guess it's a bug. It's not a bug, it's just a part of the game that we were never told.
Yeah, you would never notice it on a Pokemon that doesn't evolve like Snorlax.
Snorlax, yeah, but like for someone who plays like Eldegoss, he's
Right.
just still his first evolution for so long, and he's like, why am I this still? And it's very frustrating. So here's some stats on some out of combat. 8 seconds after taking damage or doing damage. You're out of combat for 8 seconds after taking damage or doing damage. Because it's really important to know when you're out of combat, because that's when certain effects take place. So if we don't know how long it is from when we're out of combat to get it, then how will we know when these items go into effect? Right. Movement abilities that deal damage like Heavy Slam, as long as they don't do damage, will not take you out of combat. So if you're just trying to use your abilities to move, then it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine, you're fine. So if you're doing like Focus Punch for Lucario just to get out instead of going back in to fight, then you're perfectly fine. Rocky Helmet has stealth buff to 2 seconds cooldown with no OOC requirement. To proc, must lose 10% HP on a single hit. The damage is 5% of opposing Pokemon's HP, not your HP. Now, it was once that can proc once per fight, but must get out of combat to proc again. But now that's changed. It's just the 2 second cooldown, but to proc, you must lose 10% HP on a single hit. And to me, that's insane, because it's like, if with certain Pokemon, if you're doing that, if like, they're doing damage to you, it's not going to proc. But if like it's just Cinderace doing some basic attacks, right? But if like Snorlax with Flail is bopping at your face, then it's going to take effect. And to me, that's crazy. That one, not only did it have a different effect with can proc once per fight, and it reprocs when you go out of movement. They changed it, and we didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like, they changed the effect and how to actually get it, and we didn't even know the original one. But moving on, we have Score Shield, which is rising in stock for a lot of player builds. Reports are that it stacks with Buddy Barrier and other shields in scoring, but Score Shield has a 6 second cooldown, which that's dumb. But it's like, that's broken and needs to be changed, in my opinion. But the stacking shield is crazy, especially if you're getting Pokemon that put shields on you.
Yeah, like Blissey and
Eldegoss.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And then also the shield has a 6 second cooldown. So like if you were trying to score and then some reason you got points for maybe killing a Pokemon right after scoring, it doesn't work right afterwards. It has to cool down for 6 seconds. And that's useful to know. Yeah, go ahead.
I also want to mention that, not in regards to Score Shield, but earlier you said, the first thing you said was scoring items are max 6 stacks and 1 stack per dunk, right? And so like that's like items like attack weight, special attack specs, Aeos cookie. Like every time you score, you get either max HP, SP attack, like extra stats. And since it doesn't say that there's a cap, I mean, up until recently, me and one of our other friends, we thought the stacks just kept going. Like you thought you could just have extra that damage up to infinity by just scoring a whole bunch. Like I guess maybe we thought there was some kind of soft cap, like, but we didn't really know what it was. But just knowing this information is so important for those items that it actually, maybe they're not as strong as you think, or maybe they're strong in a different way. Like maybe early game they're really good, but then they kind of fall off toward the end game. This kind of stuff is super important to know. And just like with all the other things I just read, like, you have so much, you can use the items better and if you understand how they actually work, right? So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
For sure. Now, moving on from the most broken item in the game. Final recommendations from the post the author put in general. After watching quite a lot of top Master 5 stacks, general consensus is that you run Buddy Barrier plus Focus Band plus X item, where X is dependent on roll. Pokemon who Auto often will pick up Muscle Band for the extra damage. Tanks, some all-rounder supports will pick up Score Shield. There are not many special attackers that are used at the top level, other than Ninetales, who uses Muscle Band, of all items. Depending on the special attack ratio on their abilities, Wise Glasses may be the best choice. Although initial testing seems to show that special attack ratios on most abilities are not the best. And that's another point, is we don't know the ratios when they evolve or level up. Energy Amp is sometimes being run in Cramorant builds and other Pokemon with high damaging Unite moves. For pure DPS carries, example Cinderace and Greninja, they can both run Muscle and Scope Lens, plus a Focus or Buddy Shield, and drop one survivability item. But it is debatable whether the increase in damage from Scope outweighs replacing one of the two general tank items. Focus Band is even better on melee carries, as they need to have the extra survivability more than the range carries and have more health to take advantage of Focus Band. And that's the thing I've been seeing, and even in my own personal builds, for most of my Pokemon, I'm taking the same build over and over again. And I might actually switch out my Scope Lens for the Score Shield, because Score Shield is just seen in every single build now. So I'm actually debating on my next level 30 item I really want to max out is Score Shield, because it's super strong, especially for those late game pushes and last chance scorings.
Yeah. And
as
6 cooldown.
So
good.
6 second cooldown.
Other shields.
Exactly. This information is incredibly important, but the game doesn't tell you any of it. Like I mentioned, it tells you none of it. For now, dedicated players like Kontosis are the only ways most of us can get the information. If you want more details on the stats, check out this post on Reddit. We will share it on Twitter for you, so you can find it easily. So you can easily find the link and give them upvotes. And we will post that in our Twitter, like we mentioned, as well as in the comments, or not the comments, excuse me, our descriptions for this video or podcast as well. Next up is the Dreadnought debuff. Now, for arguably the most important information to anybody trying to win in Pokemon Unite on any map with Zapdos, you may have heard of this by now, because it's been shared everywhere. Videos popping up left and right of Dreadnought sucks now. But if you haven't, we've got some info for you. Are you ready, Josh? Are you ready?
Yeah, here we go.
All right, buckle yourself in, strap yourself in, or you're about to fly off the roller coaster. When a team gets the last hit on Dreadnought, the game doesn't tell us this, by the way, that the entire team gets a shield and some EXP, right? Like that. Or the game does tell us, excuse me. The game does tell you. It's like, oh, you get experience and shield, right? What the game doesn't tell you is that the team that gets Dreadnought has a debuff that makes them do about 55% less damage to Zapdos for 90 seconds. 55! That is over half of 100, if you guys don't know the maths. Now think about this for a second. If you get that final Dreadnought just before Zapdos spawns at the 2-minute mark, then most of the last 2 minutes of the game, your team will do less damage to Zapdos, making it take twice as long to take Zapdos and twice as hard to snipe steal it from the enemy. This is game-changing and honestly game-breaking. Like, game-changing information that the game does not tell you. Because you actually think that you're doing well, you're doing well if you... Excuse me, I'm so sorry. You actually think that you're doing well if you take the last Dreadnought, but you're actually getting a debuff that can determine whether or not you can even get Zapdos. Like, in determining whether you win the game. This has been tested, and there are videos all over the internet showing proof. But despite that, nowhere in the game is this information. Because some people say this could be a bug, but man, Josh, this is very specific and consistent. Like, it can't just be a bug. It's just so weird. Yeah, it's just weird to punish the team that takes the buff. But it could be argued that if used correctly, the team could take out the enemy team in a fight with the extra experience and shield, but it doesn't seem significant enough during the last 2 minutes of the game, with most people already level 14 or 15, especially if your team is ahead. In fact, this probably makes it more, where Rotom's probably more valuable in that last 3-minute mark.
Yeah.
But Josh, what do you think? Do you think this was intentional, or how do you think that debuff plays into the end game?
Yeah, I mean, this is a crazy debuff. Like, this is something that it is surprising that exists and that the game doesn't tell you. Now, I think the only reason that it would be like considered a bug is because the game doesn't tell you, but I personally think it's intentional
Mm,
because it's really like like you said, it's really specific. It's really like it's consistent. It happens every time you take Dreadnought, you have less damage to Zapdos for a certain amount of time. And I think that at the end of the game, like you said, of course, Rotom becomes really important just knowing this. But I think that closer to the 2 minute mark, the team that's behind kind of has to decide if they want to take Dreadnought for the extra experience and shield, but sacrifice the extra damage to Zapdos, um, so that they can win team fights. And it's like they have to decide whether they want to win the next team fight with a shield or they want to take Zapdos. Like, of course, right now Zapdos is super strong, and if you take Zapdos, you pretty much win.
mm,
But like, it's just really, it's just a really weird thing to think about. Like, I shouldn't take this objective because I want to do more damage to this other objective. So I can't tell you if they're gonna fix this and or change it, or even if they're gonna acknowledge this. Like, they haven't said anything about this. So I think that if you know this information, it changes the way you play the game, especially in the past 3 minutes and the end 3 minutes. And if you're trying to win and you're trying to make a comeback, then you cannot take this buff before Zapdos comes up, or you will have such a difficult time stealing Zapdos and trying to sneak Zapdos before the enemy comes, or even just trying to take it when they're trying to take it. Because if they have the buff, if they don't have the debuff and you do, then 9 out of 10 times they're probably gonna take Zapdos. So this changes the way people play the last couple minutes of the game, and I think that's why it's been so popular. That's why it's been popping up everywhere, because
yeah.
the more people that know this, the more people we can be aware of it, and the more we can stop losing Zapdos in the last 2 minutes, and not knowing why, not knowing
Yeah,
why we couldn't take it. So
exactly.
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, there is a lot of information hidden in the game that we as a community really wish they could tell us. Like even having our stats as an option to turn on or off, in your options. Like for people who don't really care about that stuff, maybe they don't want that on like cluttering their screen, but for people who
Yeah,
maybe want to grind out and get to a higher level, like personally myself and even Josh here, it'd be nice to have that. But
give
we
us
could have a
options.
yeah, give us the option. We could have a lot more fun in the competitive scene if we knew more stats for our Pokemon aside from the 1 to 5 star rating that you give us on the Pokemon selection screen. Let's really hope they address it soon, especially if esports become a big part of this game's lifespan, which I honestly think it was made for it.
Right.
All right, so let's get into some final thoughts here, Josh.
All right. So final thoughts for the podcast. How do we feel about the game now? Right. So I'll go first. So I really feel how new the game is, right? There's no meta in play. There's no like way to call roles before the game. It makes me think of like League of Legends at the beginning, since I was playing League of Legends pre-season 1, and the meta was totally different. Like, people would take bruisers bot lane, they would take like carries mid lane, and it was totally different to the way that the game has been built now. But now that the game is sort of an established meta, like these kinds of characters go to this way, this role is played on this lane. The game, like the developers have actually built the game around that. So you can call this lane, you can call this role before time, and that was something that took a while to get into the game. And the fact that Pokemon Unite isn't fixing that issue, I guess you could say, or hasn't figured that out from the beginning of its life cycle, I think that it feels like a really early MOBA. Like, that's kind of what it feels like right now. And there's also no way to tell what bugs we're gonna find next, apparently, because following this like whole scope lens muscle band thing, the game just doesn't work the way that it's supposed to sometimes, and it's really tough to even know that without any indication of like where it's coming from, why I'm doing less damage, what's going on. So it feels like anything can happen in this game. That being said, I'm trying to enjoy the game as much as I can. Standard and quick battles are super fun to blow off steam, but ranked battles should really either be played solo or with like a full team of 5, because communication in the game is still very limited. So like ping system is not very robust, and it's better to just have people on voice communication. What about you, Andrew?
I mean, yeah, wholeheartedly agree. I've been kind of harping this recently. I've been jumping back and forth too. The only time you should ever not do 5-stack or solo queue is the early ranks, because that's when you really get, I feel like, a lot of bots and a lot of trolls, or even just people who just don't know how to play a MOBA. But once you get to like mid-expert, you need to either do solo queue or you need to get a man of 5 or a 5-man team. Because it becomes really hard, especially going forward, especially when you get to veteran and up to climb those ranks. Because you just get really strong people and you get really coordinated people. And communication is key in MOBAs, of course. And because like right now, we kind of have like a group of 4 that we solidly, normally, typically play with. But we miss a 5. Like, we're missing a 5, so we never do rank together. It's always...
Because we can't.
Because we can't. Because it's just, 1, we can't because it's 4 people. And 2... even if one person's like, oh, well, I'll drop out so you can play rank, we're just like, no, we really don't want to then, because it's pretty bad. Because
I don't know how many people know that, but like in ranked, you can only go into ranked with either 1, 2, or 3 people or 5 people. You can't go with 4 people, forcing your last person to be solo. You can't do that.
Yeah, and also, I agree. It feels like a very early MOBA, but it has no excuse. And you can say like, oh, well, it's Pokemon Company's first MOBA, but you got to look at the person who's helping make this game. Tencent. The guys who own League of Legends, and you could arguably say they have 3 MOBAs out right now.
Yeah,
4 if you count the Chinese version of
Mobile Legends.
Not Mobile Legends. That's
Mobile
Moonstone. Arena of Valor. If you count Honor of Kings, because I could only think of the Chinese name, which is Honor of Kings. I'm like, if you count that as a separate game, because it does play different, like had different features in it. They have 4: Honor of Kings, Arena of Valor, League of Legends, and League of Legends Wild Rift. And they did it in League of Legends Wild Rift where they messed up having, you couldn't call your roles at first. It's now in the game, but I feel like that should be a day 1 option. Because
I mean, I'm assuming they have different teams working on it, but you would think they have some sort of cohesiveness across their entire company when it comes to the same genre of game.
Right. But the company, the sub company that's working with Tencent, like in the Tencent, is Timmy, which works on Arena of Valor. So so they really have no excuse, in my opinion.
Dang,
and I've played all those MOBAs. So it's there really isn't. And as much as I love this game, this is the main source of my streaming content outside of doing some extra Pokemon stuff and maybe even eventually some other things. But
it's fun.
I love playing this game. As someone who, for the majority of his college life and even especially early life living in Japan, because this is how I made some of the closest friends I have in my life right now, and I've never even really met some of them, was playing League of Legends and playing MOBAs. MOBAs is a fun way for me to play games and blow off steam, and Pokemon Unite is the best one I've played just because of the timing, and the fact that it's Pokemon, right?
Right, the time meaning like the 10-minute matches, right?
The 10-minute matches instead of playing 40 minutes, especially for someone who is competitive like myself, and I want to do ranked, but I would always be nervous to play League of Legends because I'm like, wow, if I lose this game, it was 40 minutes wasted and I've gone down. In Pokemon Unite, if I go down, that was 10 minutes. I can play 3 more games in the hour. So it's the time really makes a difference for me when it comes to, especially with someone who works a full-time job or who works full-time jobs like me and you. It's like we don't have as much time, but we want to become competitive at a game.
Right.
So this is like the perfect game to do so. And I even plan to eventually do tournaments like myself, like to be in tournaments. I don't know about you. Oh, you do? Oh, well, I mean, we're on the same team, so it doesn't matter.
16-bit.
16-bit esports repping, but yeah, so sorry about my little spiel there, but that's how I feel. I love this game, and I want it to succeed. I want it to be better than League of Legends, because in my opinion, it is. And
it's Pokemon, so...
It's got the property. It's got the IP. Tencent, run with it. Run with it. You've got the IP to make this the best MOBA out there.
Let's hope that they really do invest time in listening to the community,
Mm,
invest time fixing the game's bugs, and invest more thought into the quality of life changes that this game needs,
yeah.
and let's just we're gonna run with it. I mean, we started this podcast, we enjoy the game, it's really interesting, it's fun to play. So, as of right now, we have no reason to stop.
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes for a while, and just enjoy it for what it is. So guys, that was today's episode of Trainers Unite. We'll be coming to you soon with more content. We'll be trying to release 1 to 2 episodes a week. As Andrew is in the US and I'm in Tokyo, we'll be figuring out a schedule that works for both of us as soon as we can. But as always, thanks for listening. Leave us a comment and a review below, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're listening. And also follow us on Twitter at Trainers Unite PC, PC for podcast, for more shares, updates, and opinions about Pokemon Unite. Thanks again for listening, and keep on uniting.
See you guys next time.
Ciao!